my dad, my mom, or anyone. I didn't have anything. I didn't celebrate Christmas. I didn't I mean, like the only holiday I celebrated was Halloween. That was my holiday. Every other holiday, Easter, everything was taken away from me. Everything that made me a man, your whole foundation is just taken away from you. And when that happens, that creates all these mental insecurities and all these other side factors when you're a broken man. And how can you accept yourself as a gay man? You just accepted yourself as a gay man, and then you're rejected by everyone that is supposed to love you unconditionally. It's just, this film resonates with me, and I absolutely love this film. It's just hard to watch sometimes, but that's just a little bit about me. I will give the platform on to the next person.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you very much, Jeffrey.
I love your film. Thank you.
Thank you again. Our next presenter, our next speaker is Tanya Asapansa Johnson Walker. Tanya is a U.S. Army veteran. She co-founded the New York Transgender Advocacy Group, NYTAG, and serves as co-chair on the board of Equality New York and the Metro Council of a Wider Bridge. Tanya facilitates a trans women's group at Sage Midtown Manhattan and continues to be instrumental in obtaining LGBT+ rights in New York State. For 17 years, she lobbied Assembly and Senate in Albany for the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act, which added gender identity to the state's existing human rights law. Community members, I'd like us to welcome Tanya Asapansa Johnson Walker. Tanya.
Hi, I wish I looked like that picture. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I thought the film was great. You know, I pretended I didn't transition until I was like 27 years old, you know, and I was in the Army, and I saw all the people in the closet and all the pain going to the gay clubs, following guys that I thought were straight men, and they get in the club and they, oh, girl, you know, it's being Black, being trans, or being gay is very painful. And you know, your family's not really educated about it. And even if they don't really want to be educated about it sometimes, it's really sad because we are the ones that suffer the most, Black people. It's mostly Black trans women that are being murdered. It's mostly, you know, Black gay men or gay boys who are being thrown onto the streets and being pimped and sold and are, you know, sex workers now. It's, you know, or they're incarcerated. You know, it's, you know, when I first, you know, when I was growing up, you know, and I thought I was gay because they said, you know, you act feminine. They called me the faggot and gay. So I said, you know, and I lived a life. And I didn't mind living gay as a gay man, but I knew I was trans. I had to keep fighting it. But that film is very touching and very real about how, like what's his name said about, what's his name? He said about his family and not being accepted and coming to New York. And, you know, it's, you know, Black people suffer the most whenever we discriminate against our own people. We only make up 12% of the population. You know, we need to, you know, educate each other and learn some type of diversity, inclusion in our community. We cannot let religions that we were taught during slavery destroy Black power. Those religions, all these religions were given to us during slavery, most of them. And we're destroying each other. We're destroying each other in Africa. I see the missionaries going over there, white missionaries going to Africa, teaching religion, bringing Christianity over there to the natives. And they're killing their LGBTQ children. they're ousting them out of the family. They're jailing them. They're raping lesbians, trying to make them straight. You know, they're killing each other. You know, and it's really sad. You know that there's no place you could go in the world as a Black gay person or as a Black trans person and not experience hatred from your own people. You know, and people are just not, people are out of touch about the LGBTQ people's lives. You know, I remember one time I went to a Black Lives Matter protest and some woman told me, she said, no, you don't belong in here. You go over there with your community, the LGBT, whatever they are, community. You don't belong over here. So, you know, we get rejected even within our own, you know, within our own race. And people just aren't knowledgeable. You know, some people are willfully ignorant about what we go through, and which makes us vulnerable to sexual assault by rejecting us by adults. You know, ousting our gay children. That's what it does. It makes us vulnerable because we're going to go looking for love, and we're going to find it in all the wrong places. And then we might run into a pimp who's going to put us on the streets. And, you know, pimp us. You know, it's, if you don't want your kids, there's people out there that will sell them. You know, and they're looking for children to sell. I'm a former sex worker, and I saw 9-year-old kids out there selling their bodies, gay kids who were thrown out of their families' homes. So, you know, and I saw adults dating them without, they didn't even think about that they were going with the child. You know, they didn't care. And I knew these are children. I said, these are children that they're dating, and they're paying them money. I couldn't believe it. There was boys out there, there was girls out there, there was trans girls. I said, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And especially after coming back to New York. I was born in New York, and I came back to New York, you know, after I got out the military. I got out in '84 out of the military, and I came back to New York in 1986, you know, before all this technology and stuff. And I remember Christopher Street, and there was men on both sides of the street, thick as the hair on a dog's back, you know, hustlers and everything, and just, you know, everybody just having a good time and stuff, you know. But we had a lot of problems. We were poor. There was a lot of drug abuse, you know, and a lot of homelessness. And it was very sad. And a lot of the kids were Black and brown, people of color that were on the streets, just ousted by their families. You know, like, you gave birth to this child. Why would you throw this child out? This child needs to be loved, taken care of, no matter what. Like, I wanted to be a ballerina. Even if I didn't transition, I wanted to be a ballet guy. If I couldn't transition in ballet, I just wanted to do ballet. And my mother said, only faggots do that. You know, so, you know, they put things in us and in our mind to try to shape us, but they're not shaping us, they're destroying us. You know, the things you tell your children that are so hateful, you know, it creates destructive behavior within that child. Because I remember using drugs. I remember cruising the parks for sex, for gay sex, as a gay man, you know, living as a gay man. I remember being in the bathhouses. I remember being in the dark rooms. I remember all that stuff. And I remember AIDS was around and everybody was dying, and I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid to die. I wasn't afraid because everybody else was dying. So I said, well, I might as well join the club. But I didn't find out I was like HIV positive until like 1997. You know, I was scared to take the test and all that, but I said, well, I'm not dead, so maybe I don't have it. So I went and took the test anyway, and I went back up a couple of months later, and they said, yes, you're positive, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, now what? You know, but I continued to live my life, you know, and, you know, I really found, you know, it was a lot of self-hatred, a lot of guilt, a lot of, you know, sadness, you know, that I didn't have that Black community to run to or you know, for help. Oh, am I going too long? Am I going too long?
No, continue, Tanya. You got about 2 minutes more.
Yeah. So I lived that life. I was in the army with a bunch of closet case men. That was crazy. I was in the army with a bunch of closet case men who, uh, and I could see that, they didn't want to hang with me because people could tell that I was effeminate. They didn't want to hang with me. They were in, some of them were in marriages of convenience, and they lived off base in 2-bedroom apartments. And, I used to party with some of the straight couples, but the gay couples steered clear from me, until we got to the gay club in Germany. And I used to go to some of the gay clubs up in Washington, D.C. back in the 80s. And I remember, being in the gay clubs, the gay music, I loved it all. I loved the culture, I loved it all. I felt special in that life. I felt special going to the gay clubs and being somewhere where people were like me and wanted to be like me and all that kind of stuff, and that was the only place I had to go, was the clubs. I didn't have, and outside of the club, in New York City, you had a little bit of a community, like we'd go hang out at the Port Authority, and everybody would go on the staircase in the Port Authority back in the days, and that's where everybody went to have sex or to pull a date or whatever. All the gay guys are out there, the trans girls are on the steps. Everybody was back there cruising, and that's the type of things I saw. I saw the men cruising the restrooms, they call them tea rooms at the Port Authority. And I used to go in the tea rooms. I've been in there. I never did anything really in the tea room, but I've seen things go on in the tea room, but I've been in gay life and gay culture for many, many years. And I know, and if people shouldn't be afraid of me because I'm trans, I feel like Black gay men are afraid of me because I'm trans. Don't be afraid of me. I might know something about gay life that you don't know about gay life or Black gay life. I might can help you with something. I'm not, I don't see, I've learned not to see men as sex objects. That's what we have to get together in our mind. We have to see people as people, but we were taught to see each other as sex objects. Oh, he's got a nice butt. Oh, he's got muscles. Oh, he's got brain. He's got this. No, we should see each other as human beings. That's how we get mixed up with these psychopaths that kill us, is by, oh, he's cute, he's gorgeous, he's fab. I've seen gay people and trans people take on cute, fab men and lose their life. So I think it's very important that we start looking at each other as people and not sex objects to sleep with. I know that's how we were taught, coming out, but it's a dangerous move, and we have to really, and I know we're lonely, and I know, we're alone a lot, but, sometimes we have to use our head and really learn to love one another and take care of one another and, move forward in this world together, because, together we stand, divided we'll fall, and we'll fall really hard.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Thank you very much, Tanya. So just hang on. Hang on. And for some of the questions that may come afterwards again. So just hang on again. Hang on.
Put this hat back on. This hair's messy.
Yeah. So our next presenter is Reverend Michael Crumpler, who's with the Unitarian Universalist Association in New York City. Reverend Michael Crumpler serves as the LGBTQ and Multicultural Program Director of the Unitarian Universalist Association. He is an ordained minister in the United Church of Christ. Michael lives in Harlem and is very active in the social justice ministry at the historic Judson Memorial Church of New York City, where he served as president of the board from 2016 to 2018. He's passionate about intersectional ministry centered in Blackness, queerness, HIV/AIDS, economic justice, and emotional well-being. Michael was published in 2 groundbreaking works related to HIV and AIDS. On Curating Issued 42, What You Don't Know About AIDS Could Fill a Museum, and Spiritual Care in the Age of Black Lives Matter. Community members, I'd like us to welcome Reverend Michael Crumpler. Micah.
Thank you, Antoine. Thank you so much, Jeffrey and Tanya. I can hear you all speak for life. It's such a privilege to also speak alongside of such experience. The movie was, the film was amazing. So true. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for like also naming that like it's hard to watch. You know, and I totally identify. I was talking to a trans friend earlier today. I'm like, World AIDS Day for people living with HIV and AIDS is like Trans Day of Remembrance for trans people. It's like everybody coming, wanting you to speak, and it's like, you know, and it's bittersweet because obviously we have so much to share, so much to identify, and at another time it's like painful that you know it takes you back to that first day when you got the when you got the results, or like all of the things that led to it. You know, the anger that you feel that like, you know, there's about to be a vaccine in what, like 6 months for COVID, and here we are out here just you know, struggling. So it's a lot, and it is a privilege, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, I'm you know, Michael, I'm a reverend, ordained, and I do faith work, LGBTQ faith work, mostly in white spaces. And I name that because what I loved about the film is that it was very, very, you know, Black-centered film. You know, I think it's so important to have Black people telling Black stories about Black people. And it's like not something that we get to see. Oftentimes it's someone else telling our stories, or us telling our stories for someone else. However, I also name that same richness in the film as also a blind spot. I think that like, and I think that it was what was unnamed in the film is the context of white supremacy culture that surrounds, you know, the Black experience and Black culture, and it impacts our relationships with one another. It impacts our relationship with ourselves. It impacts where we find safety. All of the social services, you know, that are available to us, the healthcare that is available to us, I love the part that I connected with the most was talking about the mothers. And I loved, you know, the white therapist who so poignantly and like perfectly named the dynamic between the mothers and sons, and mothers and their gay sons. And so and that is so rich. And that is so rich, I think, because Black mothers know the terror of what it means to live in this world, and do everything to shield us from that and to protect us from that, and, you know, even beat us themselves to prevent us from being beat by the world, by whiteness. And so I just really, really appreciated that. Yeah, so those are all the things. So I became HIV positive in 2006. And at the time I was married. At the time I was, you know, identified as an evangelical Christian. At the time I was living in the South, which is its own thing. And so I was horrified, like, because all the things that, you know, Tanya, is it Tanya or Tanya? I forget. Tanya? Tanya, fantastic. At the time, like all the things that you talked about after you were out, like that I saw all that before I was out. I was out there all in the woods, in cars, cruising spots, tea rooms. I was just doing all the things, you know. You sent me out for a gallon of milk, honey. There ain't no telling when you was gonna see me again. And so, like, I was out there, and I had this air of what do you call it? The word is you know, I was invincible, and because I was like called and Christian and loved and the favorite son, you know, being HIV positive was other people's problems. Like, God is not going to do that to me. Like, and this is just a little sin today, or tonight, or last night. And that calamity was never going to happen to me. Oh, I was also in the military. Thank you, Tanya, for your service. I was in the Air Force for 11 years. And so, like, I was good, except I just had this sin over here. And so, like, becoming HIV positive was like game over. It became the thing that, like, you know, it just changed everything. And I mean, you know, just that pour some religious talk on there. Like, I was like, I mean, it was a blessing, honestly, because, you know, I think I'd probably still be doing that today. You know, I'd still be, but what I needed to do, what becoming HIV positive did for me is it was an existential shift, and it changed everything. It gave me power to name that I'm gay. That was the first thing. And then from there, when I'm getting a divorce, which was like unthinkable, you know, which was like, I don't want to be in the military anymore. I don't want to live in South Carolina anymore. And it was like all of a sudden that dam broke, and it was like, I want to be who I'm supposed to be while I can, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. And also, I was like, I'm not going to live as long as I stay around these awful people. And I'm not talking about my family, it's just like the entire environment of where I was around at the time, military, white people, blah, blah, blah. And so, like, I'm just like, I need to find community. And so that led me, thank you, 4 minutes, that led me to just abandon all the lies, and it freed me to be more authentic. And I say more authentic because it didn't get easy right away. I struggled with addiction, and I didn't. Another part of the film that I really appreciated naming, but that I couldn't identify with, is I wanted to live all along. I wanted to live. I wanted to feel. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be included. I wanted to be seen. I mean, whether it was in the bathroom or the mountaintop. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be felt. I wanted to be touched. I wanted to be winked at. I wanted to be second. I wanted to be double taked. And so, like, and I was willing to do anything to feel those experiences. So when drugs were into the room, it wasn't even like I didn't hesitate. Whatever I want, whatever I needed to feel present, whatever I needed to feel to be present was what I went for. And so I really, really appreciated the end where we get to, like, therapy and networking, because there just isn't a lot of, one of the reasons why I think the Black, queer, and trans experience is so unique is because this world wasn't built for us. And when I say us, I mean all Black people anyway. And so we have to create space. Like, you know, there's no way, we're just never gonna ever be, it just not built, it's just not. And so we have to create space. And so we have to find the Black therapist who has specific experience working with queer and trans folk. We have to, like, create the space for us to be together. And I discovered that about 3 or 4 years ago, when I just started having a Black brunch for my friends, like unapologetically Black. If you white, no, you can't go. If you have a white roommate, they need to leave. We ain't having no bagels and no oatmeal. Like, it's grits, it's eggs, it's bacon, it's sausage. You know, if you're vegan, we can help you out, but, like, this is Black, and you have to create these unapologetically Black spaces for us to know and love one another, because it's a game changer. I see the 2 minutes, and it's a game changer. It's you know, we have to find ways to live, and I so appreciate the film for doing that. But, like, once the dam breaks for your truth, for my truth, when that dam broke, I had to rethink my theology. I had to renew or redefine my relationships with my family. I had to be honest with white people in my life about what I need and what I don't. And and you have to just like own what you want. And I think that, and surround yourself with people who support that, and rid yourself of people who don't. And I think that because we are beautiful, and the religious construct that we have, as Tanya said, is so broken. And we have to redefine it, particularly those of us who are called into ministry. We have to be so out loud about what is truth and what is not. And so I'm just so I have so much joy from just being here with you all and watching that film and remembering the things that I get to say.
Thank you very much, Reverend Michael. This is really good, and you and I have some more work to do together. So just strap in there. I'm gonna get back to you. So thank you very much again, Michael, for this. Our next presenter is. I'd like to introduce our next presenter. Hopefully I can get this going. I'd like to introduce our next presenter, who is a really special person. And I am so glad to have her join us today. It's so when you're doing everything by yourself. Can you guys see the screen? No. Yes, you can. All right. So our next presenter is Dr. Karen Glover, and she's a board-certified physician who specializes in psychiatry and teaches stress-reducing mindfulness skills to increase professional and personal success. Born in the Bronx and raised in White Plains, New York, she spent the greater part of her adult life following her interest in science, health, and improving the life of women and the underserved. She contributed to various media outlets on a range of topics related to mental wellness. Dr. Glover used mindfulness-based techniques in both her psychiatry practice as well as her career coaching for professionals. She is the director of adult behavioral health at Montefiore Medical Group and is assistant professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York. Community members, I'd like us to welcome Dr. Karen Glover. Dr. Glover.
Hi, everybody. I am so happy to be here. I'm gonna share my slides. Let's see. I think this is.
I need to stop sharing first. Okay.
Okay. Have I shared? Wait, let's see. All right. Have I shared?
It's now sharing.
Okay. Amen. All right. So.
Oh, you're good.
So I just want to start by saying I am from New York. My parents are from Harlem. I'm Black. I identify as cisgendered, heterosexual, Black woman of African American descent. And one of the way that I came to do this kind of work as a psychiatrist was that I saw the ways that my own family members, my grandparents who struggled with their third grade education, came up from the South fleeing essentially lynchings and other kinds of violence, state-sanctioned violence. They came to New York to survive, and then had to grapple with their kids managing stress in multiple ways, including, so I have a bunch of uncles who went on heroin in the 70s, right, 60s and 70s, and I grew up spending time with family and seeing, like, this is what happens when our society is just treats, as Ms. Tanya said, treats Black people the worst, right? So so it really helped shape my career path, knowing that if children are raised in environments that are loving and calm and peaceful, the children will grow into beautiful trees. They will bear fruit. They will contribute to the world. So I also started going to clubs when I was 14 because I love music, and my parents were just like, look, as long as you keep your grades good, like just we'll mind our business and you mind yours. So I was in the meatpacking district in the 80s and 90s, and I was like, this is a whole entire world. And I would run into my cousins there, and I was like, look, I want you to enjoy. And so in any event, I just wanted to let you know who I am, okay? And I'm coming to you live from my office in the Bronx. And so here we go. So I just want to say that medical professionals are just starting to wrap their minds around structural racism, right? Everything that Miss Tanya talked about, everything that Reverend Michael talked about, everything that Jeffrey talked about, has to do with structures that are in place that essentially keep a permanent underclass, people who are deprived of the kinds of services that they need, including zero safety net. So that has everything to do with housing, that has everything to do with the environmental, how close you are to the nearest bus depot, the zip code you grow up in, things like that, right? Racism is not always burning across on somebody's lawn. It's not always interpersonal. Sometimes it is just baked into the system. So there are wonderful researchers who are doing great work highlighting the impact of structural racism and its terrible effects on our mental and physical health. And as we all know, the mind and the body are one, right? So in any event, what I wanted to just bring to you is just this knowledge that everything you are feeling is valid and is backed up by the science, right? I think all these researchers who are producing amazing work, essentially, I feel like they must have all seen the same things I saw in the 90s and said, okay, I know I can't just say I have an intuition that something is wrong. I know I have to do the research. So they've been doing the research for the past 2 decades, and they are just, it's just coming out left and right. That so much of what we are seeing as far as rates of depression, anxiety, the likelihood of contracting HIV, the likelihood of using substances is entirely related. In most cases, particularly for Black and Latinx youth, is related to essentially the environment where you grew up. So I want to just validate for everybody that COVID era mental health is a thing. Like, we are witnessing just huge levels of grief and loss. People may not have lost a loved one, but they have certainly lost freedom. They've lost access to the things that would normally bring them joy. If you used to enjoy dancing to music in the park and gathering with all the beautiful people in Fort Greene or in Harlem on a Sunday, look, that's off limits for now. And those are the things that helped a number of us make it through these times, right? So there's that. And there's this sense of powerlessness, that we are utterly dependent on each other to stay safe. So, and then there's the isolation that comes with it, that we as human beings are made for touch. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us are made for touch, for eye contact, for validation, and we're not getting that right now. And it's been a while, right? You can go a month, you can go 2 months, I'm sure, but we're in what, month 75 of this? So I just want to validate for everybody, like, these are not easy times. And it's compounded by some of the effects of structural racism and the effects of discrimination. So I want to make sure that you understand what you should be expecting when you go to the doctor, or when you have your televisit with your doctor lately, because hopefully you don't have to go into the doctor lately. That there's a 9-item questionnaire that we often use with patients to just assess depression symptoms. And you can always look for this online. If you have a loved one who you're worried about, you just whip up that PHQ-9, just Google PHQ-9 and PDF, and you will get one. You can send it to the loved one. They can do it themselves. And there's a score that you get. And based on that score, you have an idea of like how mild the symptoms are, how moderate the symptoms are, and how severe the symptoms are. So I just want everybody to know that. And then for my folks, so I worked in HIV for 7 years, and so I really like to be inclusive in my presentations and make sure that the folks who are dealing with HIV, sometimes the depression symptoms can come from multiple what we call etiologies, or multiple reasons why somebody could be feeling depressed. It may not be just the situation. It may not be just life. It could also be a thyroid issue. It could, as I say here, clinical and subclinical hypothyroidism can be found in 16% of people with HIV. So we have to make sure that like our doctors are doing the right kinds of tests, looking at our thyroid, looking for B12 deficiency, looking for that kind of anemia, particularly for our drinkers. Sometimes people are a little bit malnourished if they're not, if they're doing more drinking than they are eating. So that's something to keep in mind. And then of course there's testosterone deficiency, which can happen in up to 50% of men with symptomatic HIV/AIDS. So it's something to keep in mind, and something that I hope when you go to the doctor, you can talk with your doctor about. And so treatments for depression, they range. Some people get a lot of benefit from therapy. Some people get a lot of benefit from their meds, and they don't really want to talk to somebody once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever. So for lots of people, I'm just like, look, what's your groove? Like, what do you want? Do you want to talk? Or if you don't want to talk, do you want to just take some medication? Do you want to just go to the gym? Or you can't go to the gym right now because it's COVID. I don't advise it. But is it about working out? Okay. And then sometimes it's a combination of all of that. And then we have to think about, what are you eating? And then what ARVs are you on? Because if you're on efavirenz or a tripla or Complera, then I know that sometimes there can be a higher risk for depression or vivid nightmares. And like, that stuff is terrifying. So again, please make sure you're talking openly with your doctor about this when you guys are thinking through your medication choices. And then keep in mind that sometimes depression related to some of those ARVs can resolve in 4 weeks. And if not, then the medication might need to be changed, but just keep that in mind. And then for anxiety disorders, people living with HIV/AIDS tend to experience more anxiety disorders. And there's lots of key moments where it can be really hard, particularly at the time of diagnosis, time of starting ARVs, when people have an opportunistic infection. Sometimes people have a blip in their viral load, and I noticed that caused a lot of panic in my patients. And then it's also important to think through whether you have PTSD. And again, talking with a professional should help if it's the right professional. Again, with treatment considerations, there's medication. Not all of them are habit forming. So, and then as you can see, I strongly believe in CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy, which is where you start to get at some of the more difficult thoughts that maybe you suppress, and you learn to kind of work through them. And I really do try to keep people away from Xanax because it is very, very habit forming for lots of people. So, insomnia has the ability, especially during COVID times and racial trauma times, it has the potential to just steal your joy and your energy. So I want you to take your insomnia seriously, because sometimes it can be a precursor to depression, anxiety, or substance use. And it's also important to pay attention to whether it's related to the ARVs or the sleep apnea. Some people aren't aware that they're choking or like running out of air in their sleep. So I think that that's also something to keep in mind and to bring up to your doctor. If you're exhausted during the day and you have a partner who's like, you are sleeping and sometimes you stop breathing and I don't really know what's going on there, then I think it's important to talk with your doctor. So when people come to me for treatment, I focus on sleep hygiene, essentially turning off all your devices or leaving them somewhere else at least 1 hour before bed, getting your physical exercise in, getting your sunshine in, because I realize our days are short. The sun only shines for about 45 minutes a day, but you have to get your sunlight. And then there's some other medication choices. And then there's seasonal affective disorder, which happens around this time of year, sort of November, December, as soon as the days start getting very dark and very short and cold. Lots of people have an onset of depression symptoms that will last for essentially winter and the beginning of spring. So that's like 6 months of feeling terrible. And so there's a light box that's in my next slide. There's medication, and there's also CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. And so this is a specific kind of light. It runs about $300. So I'm not going to tell you can find this at Target and, but when you can't travel, if you can't go to Florida and visit people and get some sun, this might be something worth saving up for. And look, you sit in front of this light for literally 30 minutes a day and you make it through winter. That's it. 10,000 lumens or higher, okay? And then my conclusions. You have to maintain your healthy relationships despite physical distance. You have to consider rituals that reinforce your values and your goals. Keep trusting that Black gay men will exist in the future, and that means all of you. That means that Black people will exist in the future. This is not over. We are the children of the people who chose to survive, the people who chose to go on. Please talk with your therapist, and if you don't have one, talk with your PCP about getting one, PCP, primary care physician, and continue your medications, all of them, and get exercise. Thanks, you guys. Let's see if I can unshare. There we go. All right.
Thank you very much, Dr. Glover. And I know that was a whole lot to cram in such a very short time. Our next presenter is Melvin Owens. Let me see, am I sharing? I need to share that, okay. Okay, our next presenter is Melvin Julius Owens. Is a licensed clinical care management professional who assists historically disenfranchised communities to gain access to primary behavioral health services. Before his current role in corporate practice and administration at WellCare of New York, he worked for more than 8 years as a primary therapist and clinical consultant in some of New York's largest community-based health and wellness nonprofit organizations. After a successful career working with transitional age youth and LGBTQIA persons of color, he now advises some of these agencies on best practices and working towards a more inclusive and humane delivery of healthcare services. Julius is a member of DBGM's board of directors, and he enjoys architecture, international travel, and history. Julius, welcome. Julius?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I know we probably don't have that much time, so I'm going to try to keep it as quick as I can. I just wanted to echo pretty much what all of the panelists were saying. I really do appreciate and thank Antoine for not only the film, but also the broad range of the panelists. I know, just to touch on what the doctor was saying, I came of age in the early 2000s in New York. It's very similar as far as, you know, around 14, 15, started, you know, I grew up in Long Island and between Long Island and Harlem. So routinely would sneak out, like I said, clubs, things like that. So the intersectionality or the shared lived experience by all of the panelists is something that immediately stands out to me. Specifically raising awareness. So what am I speaking on, right? Raising awareness, discussing HIV effects and older Black gay men. Very funny, or very interesting that, you know, that we as persons, there's a lack of mental health care. That was one of the reasons why I ended up going into corporate practice, but then now I'm actually on the way of leaving corporate practice to go back into direct care because there is a huge need for it. So then, right, Tanya, I just appreciate you so much for speaking on what you were speaking on. In my current practice, I see pretty much a range of ages, pretty much just so I see Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. So a pretty broad group, but where the convergence is my older clients and my younger clients. So with that, I'm trying to touch on pretty much which Tanya, each panelist kind of did what was happening then as far as then, now, and current, and the convergence of the pandemic. Similar to the I've heard this in practice time and time again, at recent, where a lot of my older members or my older clients have shared with me that their experiences in tea rooms and theaters and bathhouses and things of that nature, and those venues no longer exist during this time in the pandemic, and we're not sure if they are ever going to come back, to be honest with you. So what I like to say is that this, just like the Dr. Glover had said, like this had highlighted this. I feel like what we're currently dealing with is a pandemic perfect storm. You're dealing with increased unemployment, which is time. You're dealing with an inability to gather socially, so that's increased isolation. Disenfranchisement of care, which was happening prior to this. So you're dealing with increased fear, and on top of that, a lack of resources. So I feel like what I'm seeing in practice now is that you have the convergence of an older generation that is now looking for new forms of socialization, which is, like I said, creating that pandemic perfect storm of now you have all this, the newer forms of social engagement, which are social media. So you're dealing with the convergence of two different eras. So you're dealing with a generation that previously used to interact utilizing bathhouses, theaters, things like that, and you're dealing with a generation that was already using social media to hook up or to be social, Grindr, Jacked, Atom for Atom, things like that. So you have a perfect storm kind of happening at the same time, whereas both generations are meeting and they're hooking up, and all out of a shared lived experience, dealing with a shared mental health crisis or a shared experience. So what I wanted to share or add to that is that what we're seeing and where I'm hoping that some more our research can go, or where planned or future research will be, is that there's a current convergence of those 4 touch points that I had touched on earlier, but then an increase of an increase of HIV, an increase in syphilis, an increase of chlamydia, an increase in gonorrhea. Prior to that, these STIs were already on an increase or not an upswing, but now due to the pandemic, you have a perfect storm. Whereas not everyone is having access to, there's limited office hours now. Not everyone can engage in telehealth services or services via over the phone or through the phone. And then, with these particular STIs, you need actual blood work done, but it's very hard to get that done right now. And then the blood work and with there being an increased stance on COVID testing, the process is limited. So creating a pandemic perfect storm where you have where you have one group that has less access to PrEP or PEP, and as a result of that, a decrease in testing, and now an increase in STD or STI infections that we previously thought we had under control. So I wanted to, like I said, just bring awareness to that during this time, yes, of increased isolation. I know it's happening. Everything, we know it's happening. It didn't go away. people are still meeting, people are still partying, people are still gathering. Just please try your best just to, like I said, if I could bring awareness to anything, just please, please, please protect yourself and try to maintain regular testing habits during this time.
Thank you very much again, Julius. This is really important. I know that we are a little bit over time. Does anybody have any questions? I know we had one question earlier from Larry. I don't know if Larry is still here. But Larry had asked the questions, if you could go back in time with all of your current life experiences, what would you tell your 15-year-old self that would better prepare you or them to help adapt towards adulthood? Any of the Jeffrey, Tanya, Julius, I don't know if Dr. Globe is still here. Want to comment on that?
She's still there. Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, it was. I gotta go back and like take it all in. Beautiful, everything you said. You hit everything during this entire time of isolation. You hit everything on the mark. Everything that we've been feeling and experiencing has been like, it's been a collection of all those things that you hit on all the points. And especially being a person of color, I mean, like, I haven't seen my mom in a year, and but we found other ways, you know, FaceTime, you know, everything you hit on. It was like, okay, I'm doing it right. So thank you for that. I mean, like, it's like, it's been a learning experience this year. Thankfully, my parents are back in my life, my dad, everything like it. But everything you said was just like, okay, I'm doing it right. It's confirmation for me. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I sent my slides to you, Antoine. So you can share
have those slides. I want those slides.
Because what we're going to do is that we're going to share this recording so that it can be on our website as well. Julius, do you want to comment on that? You know, what happened if you were 15 years at 15? Julius, still there? Sounds like
Sorry, I was on mute. What I would tell my 15-year-old self, I would tell my 15-year-old self to relax, breathe, and enjoy life a little bit more. Things have a way of working themselves out.
Thank you. Thanks, Julius. So we are now like about 30 minutes over time. It's the kind of conversation that you can't rush it and just let it go. So if there's anybody who has any questions or thoughts or comments, unmute yourself and let's just do this, because in this time with COVID and still dealing with HIV, and we're now what, 23 people still here. Jump in, because it's an opportunity for us to be together, and unmute yourself, open up your video so we can all see each other and ask questions and be comfortable. And I don't think we can stay here for the rest of the night, but if you want to ask a question, you want to make a comment on something that somebody.
I would like to make a comment.
Yes, Ty, welcome.
Thank you. Firstly, I'm just so impressed with everything that I've heard tonight.
Thank you.
For me to be that impressed, it's a really, really big deal. However, what keeps running through my mind is basically the community that I spend a lot of time with, which happens to be the elders who are LGBT, of course, that's my biggie, and a lot of our seniors are so stuck in their bubble that, based on the pains that they have experienced over the years, there are lots of trust issues. And as we aged, what we could do 30 years ago, that's just not happening. So one of my constituents is home alone. He's isolated. Well, he cannot go out without his cane, and he's just not willing to accept anything. You know, fortunately, our senior population with DIFTA, you're doing lots of things to improve the quality of our lives. However, if you're still stuck with what you could do 30 years ago, and by the way, he's positive, so I'm trying to figure out how can I help him. I was told that he may be suffering from some type of dementia. How do you get someone of that caliber connected? And we're dealing with many things. He's HIV positive, he's gay, he's a senior, and he's in denial about what he can and cannot do. One of our conversations was, well, 30 years ago, I knew more about HIV, and now I don't know anything about. It's crazy. He doesn't know anything about the mail that comes in, coverage, just basic things that you would think anybody would know. And he's just not there.
Does this person have a primary care doctor?
He had one, but because of the situation, he has not been in communication in over a year.
So I know that you have to plan in advance for an in-person visit. And if he is, would he let you go with him?
Probably not.
Probably not, okay.
I've tried something as simple as, well, call 311 and tell them what you need, and you will be guided through the process. Oh no, I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a lot. I mean, I think when people, so typically when somebody comes to me and they've been positive for more than 20 years, and if they were ever diagnosed with AIDS specifically, then I do wonder about dementia. I also wonder about depression. There's a kind of apathy that can happen with HIV-related what we call neurocognitive decline. There's a kind of apathy with that looks like depression and being just like stuck, but it can actually be part of having HIV dementia or a precursor of HIV dementia. But either way, it seems to me like this person just really needs to be connected with a primary care. I mean, he could benefit from being connected with a primary care doctor who is accustomed to working with folks who have HIV. Would he, there are organizations, huh?
He will not consider a case manager.
Oh, wow.
I was gonna say, will he at least
guide him and advocate and manage him, really?
Yeah, I think people definitely have to do that in steps. So typically the one person they're willing to talk to is their primary care doctor. And then once they get there, they're willing to like sit and let the rest of us go in there and say hi and introduce ourselves. It doesn't always work that way. But yeah, I definitely think there's so much wisdom on this call right now. I'm sure somebody else has something.
Not to sound negative, but something as basic as food delivery, right? If you're a senior, period, that's an automatic, or you have to do a sign up. He will not do that because he's afraid that they're going to take his food stamps.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I don't want those people in my business. You don't have any business I don't know. All I can do is keep doing what I've been doing for a couple of years now.
Does he have any family?
I see him, he's deteriorating. That was my question.
What I was going to say was, depending on the health plan, and you don't have to share, but depending on the health plan, they have what's called rapid response care management teams that are typically equipped with or overseen by a medical director, who's usually an internist or a general practitioner. They have a nurse practitioner, an RN, and typically a social worker attached to them. So depending on how active he is or is not, I mean, if he's at least willing to pick up the phone, you know, to an extent, then they can at least start to engage him over the phone in that sense. And then, yeah, they could at least engage him a bit over the phone. And then from there, start to assess him in that sense, as far as what's happening to him, what services he does or doesn't need, and then they could begin to link him in that sense. I mean, he's engaging with you, clearly, right. So I would at least start there and kind of use of self to bridge the gap. I mean, you know, yes, it sounds like he's afraid to engage with outsiders, but on top of, in addition to that, I mean, you yourself could be the bridge person for him, you know, kind of trying to connect him with a team or persons who can help. And it requires you to go out on the limb a little bit with him, but I would argue you using yourself as a conduit in linking him to care. But depending on who's his insurer, if he's not connected to the PCP already, I would see if you could connect him with, like I said, the internal care management team of the plan. And then from there, they can start to connect him with services. And what's good about these in-plan or in-house teams attached to the insurance companies is that they can easily set him up with a primary care provider, a behavioral health therapist. You know, they can set him up with care coordination, which would give him access to, like you said, additional support services such as peer support or additional, like you said, food deliveries or additional, just general additional support. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly what is needed at that, or what he needs, but that would be my recommendation, reaching out to him with you being kind of the middleman. And you may even have to, like I said, it could be as simple as you calling him on three-way with a representative from the plan or his PCP or someone like that.
Thank you very much, and I will try that again. But
that's sad.
I just needed to say that for me.
How are you doing, Todd?
No worries. Yeah.
How are you doing? Because you know you're almost like a caretaker. Being a caretaker, someone that you could fall into depression. Different things could happen, you know, mentally. So how are you? You know, I was a case manager for 8 years at Housing Works. So I know about case management and stuff like that. So basically, I worked in a harm reduction program, and we met our clients where they were. I worked with homeless families, HIV positive, addicted to drugs, and single adults. And I was a case manager in a transgender program. I did training at Housing Works to get the job. And I have a lot of experience with folks. And one philosophy we used was to meet the client where they were. You know, you have to meet them where they're at. And, you know, I hate that we're in the middle of a pandemic because things don't work the way they usually work. However, definitely they would need a case manager. A case manager could coordinate the services around your friend so that, and everybody will be on the same page. They'll know, you know, how to work with this person, you know, in a clinical setting. So that's what's needed right now. Definitely a case manager is a start. I hate they don't have COBRA case management anymore, because I worked in COBRA case management. And, you know, you build for the activities and you have to document everything to Medicaid and stuff like that. But definitely a case manager I mean, Housing Works has them. You know, I don't know how well equipped they are to take care of senior citizens right now, but I'm sure someone at Housing Works could refer you to someone who can help your friend.
I'd also
I work for Sage, so it's a direct connection.
They don't do that type of stuff. They don't do the type of case management I did. I did home visits.
Oh yeah, that's different. Yeah.
I did home visits, you know. I had to do case conferences in a clinical setting with a program director. I had to do escorts. I had to escort people to doctor's appointments, to their lawyer, to court. I had to visit people in jail, clients.
Wow.
You know, they don't do that kind of case management anymore.
No.
My coworker committed suicide behind it. It was so hard on us.
It's a lot.
You know, so I've done real case management, and basically this person, you know, the people who are gonna work with him are gonna have to meet him where he is at right now, and gradually, you know, build a team around him to help him take the next additional step to getting healthy, psychologically and physically healthy again.
Thank you.
I totally agree with you. And I'm launching my own, HIV Stops With Me is launching their our video at 9 p.m. So I hate to leave this conversation because it's so beautiful. And all of you, thank you for being here. And thank you, Antoine. Your film is, I mean, magical.
It's over, right? It's
I
nice.
love it. I mean, your film is magical, but I have to like run off. And I hate to like run off in the middle of this because I want to talk some more with all of you. But we're going to do another one.
Yeah.
Antoine, please, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Jeffrey and Tanya. And I know Dr. Grover's gone. I know Michael is gone. And I know that Julius is also leaving. And to those of you who remain, just so you know, we've got another event coming up on the 14th of January. So you're more than welcome to tune in for that. It's looking at the future for HIV care for LGBTQ people of color. What does the future look like? And once again, thank you to our partners, Amita Care, Brooklyn Community Pride, Caribbean Equality Project, the James Baird Foundation, and Sage USA. And this program was brought to you by funding from New York City Department of Health HIV Prevention micro grant. Thank you all and very much, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
And